Okay, in this demonstration, we are going to make our teapot spout and a teapot handle. So what we're going to need today, you're going to need your clay, and I have it in cubes, so you're going to need a chunk of clay. You don't want to cut a thin slab and try to use that, roll it up. You want to get more of a cube shape. So I got some varying sizes of clay. We'll be rolling that out. You're going to need water. I got some paint brushes here. This is how I'm going to apply water when I hollow out the spout. We're also going to need a wire loop tool, and I got this big one. And again, the best ones are the ones with the ribbon steel, the flat steel. I got a modeling stick. This is how we're going to be scoring after we hollow the spout. And we're going to need our clay cutoff wire. This is how we're going to cut the spout in half to hollow it. Also, it's good to have a couple of boards, one for the spout and one for the handle that we will set our work on to do the hollowing. So what we're going to start off first with, we're going to get our clay and make sure your work surface is a non-absorbent surface. I have my board with the fabric, and we will start here. So I'm going to start and show you some options here. So ideally, the best shape of a spout would be one that is tapered, kind of like a long carrot shape. So that's what we're going to start first. So I'm going to take a piece of clay and I cut off a cube, and so I'm going to round the edges first. Okay, when we roll coils, you can run into this problem where the clay begins to fold, and I will show that now. So this is going to be the thick end of the carrot, and off on this side is going to be the narrow end. And the technique I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be rolling a coil. When I roll a regular coil, my hand is flat. What I'm doing now is I'm going to be angling my hand like this. So my pinky will be touching the board, or it'll have that angle, and that's how I'm going to proceed. So first off, I'm just going to round these edges, and I'm going to begin. So I'm going to start off on the thick part, and I'm going to begin to taper. Okay? So what we don't want is to create folds. So I'm going to be pinching stuff off. So there's the end. This is going to be the skinny end, and I'm going to start to go. Okay, so first thing I try to do is to get a conical shape. Okay, and this is going to be the end of my spout. Now I'm going to come back up to the top where all the material is, and I'm going to roll. Now you notice when I roll my hand with the pinky, I'm creating this tapered clay form. Now watch what happens when I just push it around the table. If I do this, this piece of clay will eventually roll into a circle. So I have to be aware when I'm rolling out my spout that I don't just keep going straight. If I do, this tapered coil will become a regular coil. So my hand needs to mimic the arc that this clay would naturally move just by rolling it, okay? So I'm going to focus on getting this round and not oval. And here we immediately see, look at what's immediately happening as I do that. It starts to fold. You see this indentation? So this is how you prevent that. You just smear and seal that indentation up. If you don't do this, that fold will continue to extend, and it'll move throughout your entire spout. And in doing so, you won't be able to get a nice shape because you're going to have a twist of air in there. So I'm going to now start again, and now I'm going to start to taper. And again, I'm always focusing on trying to keep it round. And you don't want this we don't want the tip of our spout too thin. We don't want it to a point. We want to have a certain amount of volume or thickness there because we want to have liquid pour out. Now I'm just going to come back, and I'm going to come where there's more material, and then I'm going to slowly work that back down to the narrow end. And again, I guess if you wanted an oval shaped spout, you could. I like to have it round, and focus on it being round, and I could always and easily just make it a more ovate by just pressing down on it. And again, my clay is extremely soft. So this isn't a bad spout. You can see it's a long tapered carrot shape, but I have enough material on the end, a thickness that I can actually have an opening. And this isn't bad. Now, you want to have extra clay. It's always better to have a spout that is longer than you need. So when you get to the point where you're attaching the spout, you have options, okay? So this isn't a bad spout. If I wanted the spout straight on the teapot and I want it to just be straight up, that would be fine. If you want that shape. So I would be blow drying it right now to get that shape. I want to have a natural swan neck spout, I call it. And this is how I do it. I can just take this and I'm just going to naturally let the clay bend itself, okay? So now this could be a handle or a spout, but this one's going to be a spout. So I bent it naturally. I let the clay bend itself. Now I'm going to go this way, and all I'm going to do is just bring this tip like that, and there is my teapot spout. So when I get it to the point that I want it, I'm going to get myself a board, and oops, I'm going to lay my spout on the board, and I'm going to begin to blow dry it. So at this point, if you don't have a blow dryer, make the spout, let it set out for 30-40 minutes. It all depends on how warm your room is. Outside on a sunny day, it might be 10 minutes max. So with a windy day, even less than that. So I'm going to begin to dry. This is going to take a couple of minutes, so bear with me. I don't have the capability to edit the video, so I'm just going to do it in live time, okay? Here we go. Okay, what we want is we want the spout to hold its shape, okay, and I probably blow dried it for at least 2-3 minutes. So we want, if your spout cannot hold its shape, then you need to dry it more. Again, you don't want to dry it so much that it's changed color and it's beyond leather hard. At this stage, what we're going to do, we're going to center it on a board, and we're going to lay it down on its side. And here's the concept. We're going to take this cutoff wire, and we're going to use it to cut this spout in half. Now notice that it goes from a thin area to a thicker area. So when I cut it with the wire, I'm going to try and focus and maintain the wire at 50% all the way as I move across from here. And as it gets to the thicker portion of the spout, I'm going to be raising the wire. So what I like to do to have maximum control, I'm going to wrap my fingers like this, and I'm going to create the distance between each finger holding the wire a lot shorter. Now here I go, and I'm going to try and get it to where you can see what I'm doing. Sometimes it's good. I need to hold this. Sometimes this will move if you can have somebody put a hand here. If it begins to move, it usually happens when you get to the thicker area. Try to put your thumb in the back. So what I need to do first is I need to break the plane and first start to cut at the spout. And now I'm going to try to maintain 50% and stay right in the middle of the spout. And as I'm cutting, I'm going to raise the wire and try to stay in the middle of my spout. There. Now the reason why we're using, and that isn't a bad cut, I can see I went a little low right in this area. The reason why we want to be on a bat is because when we open this up, we don't want to touch it. We do not want to handle the spout. We want to leave it on the board the whole time we're hollowing it out. So now, here we go. I'm going to now stand the spout up, and I'm going to open it, and I'm going to let the spout fall just like that. Now, everything that I do, the spout is cut in half. Everything that I do, I'm not moving these. I'm not picking them up. I'm not touching them. I'm going to leave them there, because what's going to be easy is when I hollow both pieces out, I'm going to be able to bring it up just as easily as I separated it. So before we hollow out, we need to score. And again, I'm going to score. I'm going to have a wall thickness on my spout approximately like that. So there's going to be my wall thickness. So I'm going to score a little bit farther in than this, all the way up on both pieces before I hollow. So my arm might be in frame, but I'm just going to start to score. And again, I'm scoring in a linear fashion, just following the contour of the spout. And the inside, my clay is extremely wet. I blow dried and developed a skin, but my clay is still really wet. Some of the clay you might pick up from the studio might be firmer, and you might not need to blow dry as long. See, I'm not too concerned about where I score inside the spout, because I'm going to hollow that. But try to get the edges as best you can. And again, score enough that you can't count how many times you scored. You can't just see a couple of faint lines. The better you do this process, the more successful your pieces will survive. Okay, so you always score before you hollow. If I scored after I hollowed, my wall thickness would be so thin that I'd probably distort my spout, and when I put it back together, it wouldn't look good. It would look like a dog chew toy or something. So there's one half. Okay, I'm going to do the other. And not using a lot of water right now, but I'll use a brush just before I put it together. We're also going to be using the brush to smooth the inside of the spout after we hollow it out. And again, any rough edges, like we focused on the body of the teapot, we wanted it smooth. Any rough edges, you know, even if we glaze them, could be an area in your form that could trap bacteria or be difficult to clean. So it's better to, you know, try to get everything smooth, especially when it's coming in contact with food or drink. Okay. So, yeah, so I'm just about done here. I'm going to do the spout in this separate video, and then I'll have another video where I do a couple of handles, okay? So for this spout, we want it completely hollow. Again, I'm not going to use it all, but you always want to have extra length. Okay, so now that I've scored both pieces, let me give you a close-up. What I'm going to do, I'm going to begin to hollow. I'm going to use the round end of this wire loop tool. This is a KSP4 from Kemper Tools, and it's a ribbon steel. So when you go to use your wire loop tool, make sure it's clean. Sometimes dry clay is hard to get off, so you just get it wet. Now here's the concept. Let me give you a demo here. If these two fingers is the end of my spout, here's the concept. I'm going to take my wire loop tool, and notice it is in line, and I'm barely going to turn the wire loop tool, and I'm going to start to remove material. And as I do, as I get to a wider area of the spout, I'm going to turn it to where the wire loop tool is fully open, but I'm going to start with just barely taking any. So let me get in camera so I can show you. And let me zoom in on this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit of what I'm doing so you can see. So bear with me. Yeah, and I'll try to keep this just like this. So here we go. I'll do this far one first. And this one is a little bit thinner. So I'm just going to start. Well, what we'll do first, I'm going to use the groove end first. And I'm just going to put a little V. This will be better. So I'm just using the V, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper as I get to the thicker area. So this is what I removed so far. And you could use these as decorations too. So I'm going to use the V again and start this end of the spout. Okay. And again, these can be used for decoration. All right, now we're going to go to the round one. And now that we got the V developed, now I can come in and slowly turn the edge and start to remove material. But again, I would leave about 1/4 of an inch on each side of your spout. Okay. There's one. And my clay is so soft, after I use the wire loop tool, it just re-sticks. So, shows you how soft this clay is. This is a white clay that was laying around the studio. So I'm going to do the other side. This is a clay called B-Mix. There. Okay, now this one. And I might even hit this with a blow dryer. My clay is so soft before I put it back together. And this side is a little thicker than the other. But just focus on what you're doing and leave about 1/4 of an inch in wall thickness throughout your whole piece. I still have some more clay here. I'm going to go straight in and just take this portion out, even though I might not use it all. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a large brush, and I'm just going to have it wet, not a lot of water. And all I'm going to use the brush is I'm going to come here and smooth. Again, if it comes in contact with food, you want it smooth. I'm going to do the same here. Those little striations and little grooves made by the wire loop tool. I can't get my finger in there, and a nice paintbrush will do the trick. Okay. So at this stage, I'm going to blow dry it because my clay is really soft. Okay, that'll stiffen that up a little bit. Now I want to put moisture right back where, only where I scored. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of water on the scored edges. And again, you would have only needed to blow dry your spout like that if your clay was extremely soft, like mine is. So again, I'm just applying water now right where my score marks are. And we're going to put this spout back together. Okay. There. So again, scoring and then getting it wet, you're building a paste, and we have those grooves that gives the clay an opportunity to bond and interlock, and that's the goal of scoring, is to create a good bond, interlocking bond. So what are we going to do now? Here it is. So I'm going to start in the back, and I'm going to hold up the back end, and I'm going to bring the two edges together and make sure they're lined up. Okay. And then I'm just going to bring this forward, and I'm going to line up the front end right there. And what I'm using is my thumbs, and I'm just trying to bring the seams together, okay, before I really start to work the seams. So right now, here's this. It's lined up. I'm going to flip it over. Now here's the seam, and look what I do with my thumbs. I'm just going to gently wiggle it back and forth. I have it lined up, and I'm going to try and get that to bond. Okay. Again, my clay is still soft even after blow drying the inside, so look at that there. I'm just with my thumbs, and I can wiggle my thumbs back and forth and get that seam to bond. You see the water getting pushed out, and that is a good indication that the clay is coming in contact and the interlocking pieces are bonding. So now I'm going to flip it over and do the same on this side. And the end of your spout, you know, I'm probably going to show a technique to cut and do a traditional teapot spout. If you're going to do a themed teapot, you first want to hollow out your teapot. You try and get the shape, and you could do this with any kind of shape and any thickness. And then after you put it back together, then you can start doing your details. So now I got my pieces together, and I'm going to work the seam. Now I like to use this modeling stick, a little bit of water, and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to just rub over that seam that we put back together and burnish and strengthen that. Okay, so to make sure that my opening is hollow, I'm going to use the modeling stick, and I'm going to come in there, put it in there, and then I'm going to make sure and press around it and kind of twist and to reinforce that opening. Now I have a nice spout. It is totally hollow, and it is still soft. Even now that it is hollow, if it got slightly misshapen, this would be an opportunity while it's still soft for me to maybe re-emphasize the shape again, and then I can let it sit to dry and firm up a little bit more. You want to make sure you have all your pieces made before you start assembling your teapot. So this is the spout. I will have the handle in the next video, and I'll show a couple of different types of handles for you to do. So this is a hollow teapot spout. That's it for this demo.